Joining us are Mr. Ravi Vemuri, a parent who brings the real concerns and aspirations families face while making UG decisions. Next, we have Dr. Shivadasini S., professor and head at Mahindra University, who combines academic insights with practical guidance for UG readiness. And we have our operations head, Ms. Muskan. She's going to be the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I think both of you are an integral part of the Bauer family now. So Ravi sir, as we all know, he's, as a parent, I think since the time I have joined, I've seen you here. So thank you so much for being always there for students, for team, and for all the other people as well. And ma'am, you have recently joined as the visiting faculty for the UG students, and I must say the feedbacks and the guidance that you're giving to them, that's on another level. So thank you so much for being here and always taking out time. So I think this is going to be really interesting because it's me first time as moderator also. So pardon my mistakes. I'm really good as an anchor, just giving a background, but moderator, it's me for the first time. And to a lovely audience, hope I'll keep you all engaged. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Muskanji, if it makes you feel any better, that was the first time I anchored as well.
Thank you so much. That actually motivated me. So as you know, that parents into academia, while we were drafting this topic for the panel, it was like, why? Because this is the curtain raiser. So it was like, why are we actually talking about? But one thing that I've realized when the founding cohorts UG admissions were also going on, it's actually the parents who decide the future for the students and the teachers, the academicians over there like you, who actually makes the change maker in a student's life. So that's how we are landing up here at the Bauer campus today. To start with, my first question will be to ma'am, to you. Because you're coming from a prestigious institution and with n number of background that you have, so from a university's perspective, what are parents often unaware of when it comes to UG readiness and global perspectives?
Okay, the previous panel brought in a good number of good points that we need to keep in mind. One is the concept of projection. I was not able to become an engineer, so I want my son or daughter to become an engineer. Biased view, first of all. And because I am at Mahindra University and I'm also in charge for the mental and emotional wellness of all the 5,000 kids that we have on campus, the amount of distress that the kids feel because they're not getting to do what they want to do and because they don't have the aptitude for the sciences, but just because, the parents want them to do it, takes a heavy mental toll. I can go to the extent of saying about 30% of our students are into some amount of depression. All right? So that's a major issue. So what I invite the parents to do is, please ask your children to go to a career counselor and take the aptitude test as to which is the line that is going to help them the best and make them realize the potential as well as let them blossom to their full possibility, all right? Because in our university, for example, even though students come in for engineering, we offer them courses in media, in philosophy, in literature, in the management sciences, and it's an eye-opener for them because they're coming from the Chaitanyas and the Narayanas, and besides those four walls for the 9 and 10 hours that have been sitting and studying just science and math, they haven't learned anything else, right? And so when they are exposed to literature or how to make a documentary or media, it's an eye-opener for them. And they say, I feel alive. And these classes, in math class or a physics class, it's not something that I enjoy doing. So I think one major thing that a parent can do, and probably even the educational institutions could do at the school level, is give them career counseling and go through a proper career aptitude test that says which is the field that you are likely to succeed in the most. All right. Secondly, now, let's say in our university, which is one of the good universities in the private sector in Telangana, you get the best of students coming from different schools, right? But once they come into that school, everybody is into the institution or the university, they feel, I am comparing myself with the next best student. I'm comparing with myself with the next best student, and they don't know how to cope with that, right? Because it was just science and maths until now. And there was no intelligence quotient was given importance, but not emotional quotient. And I say, you need to have all four: IQ, EQ, physical quotient, some amount of physical stamina to take on life, and also certain amount of spiritual quotient, right? Otherwise, I keep telling this to my students, it's like the four legs of a table. All the four legs are not balanced, you are going to be unstable, right? So I think these are two things that are very, very important. And secondly, when you're investing in your child's future, you can't say, I'm paying fees for my child, I will not pay for anything extra. There will be extra expenses coming in, right? And parents are like, no, I'm already paying so much, I'm not ready to invest anymore. But once a child comes into a university, there will be additional expenses, and then the children feel, oh, I can't ask any more of my parents, because they feel so indebted to the parents. I think a little bit of more conversations around these aspects also needs to happen, because school is another world and university a completely different world. Yeah.
Absolutely. So following up on that only, sir, as a parent, because ma'am touched upon the extra expenses, the emotional turmoil a student has to go through, and they must feel, they might have felt like they are indebted to their parents. So what do you think for your kids, because we know we have your twins at the Bauer UG. So what do you think will the challenge as a parent you should, or the other parents should actually focus on while they're choosing UG options for their child?
Extraordinary question. It will be dishonest of me to say, I will teach your students, but I will enroll my students elsewhere. So I have decided early on that I'm going to walk the talk. We are in a world that's extremely transformative right now. We are going through an inflection point. Very few people realize that we are going through an inflection point. What is this inflection point? The inflection point is potentially we are at the doorstep of an extraordinary international financial change of guard from the dollar, which started in 1971, August 15th. Now, I'm an engineer, a BTech, and then I went abroad to US, and then I was educated there. But my passion today is geopolitics and macroeconomics. Why? Because that touches every aspect of everybody's life. My life, your life, everybody's life. And if I could go back, I would not be one-dimensional in my approach to life. My approach to life was, I want to become an engineer because that is my passport to get a job. That meant basically a steady source of income. That meant success. But now my success is defined not by making money, but by understanding the world that we are part of. You talked about kids being exposed to other kids who are far more high achievers, if you will, in one way. That's an inspiration. If somebody else does something really good, then you'll be inspired. But I'm inspired by what is happening around the world. And if I can impress on my children that it's important for you to learn what's happening in your world, I've succeeded. Today, seasoned photographers are going to be out of business because of the extraordinary capabilities of AI in generating content. Today, Muskanji's simple picture can be submitted to an AI, and the AI will generate a video of you in a Hollywood movie on a horse, in a restaurant, at a table, and you can have whoever you want. Maybe you want Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt will be right across you, and both of you will be having a dinner. My daughter is interested in multimedia, right? Digital manipulation. She's interested in production. She's interested in theater and everything. And I keep telling her, if you want to be a good video editor, there are 200 people in Madhapur today that can do that for a price. What is your value add? Where do you fit into the overall picture? Critical thinking. We have heard from the panel before, critical thinking. Are we as parents equipped to make good decisions? If we are not, how can we expect our children to make good decisions? If I cannot convince my kids, yes, your father is a master's in computer sciences from US, but he is discouraging you from going in that direction. Today, the AI in Twitter, it's called XAI, it can generate very good production-ready code. You still need to understand how the code works, how to debug, how to enhance, all those things. But it gives you a great starting point. The productivity landscape is changing enormously. Are my kids conversant with the changing shape of technology, the changing shape of the world? Those are the questions that I have as a parent. I want them to travel internationally, to be exposed to different cultures, but also to understand fundamentals, because if you don't have fundamentals, then you're lost. It is not fluff, it is not marketing, it's not headlines and taglines. It is solidity. You need to have a strong foundation. So, like the previous panel talked about self-directed learning, you need to have a native, passionate interest in something in life. What is interesting to you, you need to find out by exploring, by traveling, by talking to people, by listening, by hearing, and by learning from people who have trodden the path before. So, I discourage my kids from going abroad. In their cohort of 40 students, most of the students were going abroad. And I told them early on, if you believe in geopolitics, the trajectory of geopolitics and the macroeconomics, we are coming to a very cataclysmic inflection point in 2025, 2026, and 2027. That is my core belief. We have had 14 years of bull market. Bear with me, these things are important. As a parent, if I can't make good decisions for my children, what will my children learn from me? Right? If I'm pushing them into Narayana, just saying, yeah, if you get engineering, you'll get a job, you'll be successful. I've done that before. I know it's no longer the time for that kind of an approach. I just was looking up the statistics before coming here in 3 different AI tools. 33 million students are enrolled in undergraduate programs and graduate programs within this country, within just exclusively India. 33 million is roughly 3.3 crore students. When I was trying to sell the idea of my kids going into Bauer, I told my wife, do you want to go into this 3.3 crore students? Or do you want to go into a top echelon where you're going to prepare your kids to be leaders? They won't be leaders instantaneously, not this year, perhaps not next year even. But eventually they are going to inculcate a mindset of critical thinking, of leadership, of accountability, of ethical, responsible, moral, most importantly, successful decision making. So if you are not pushing them into the creme de la creme, but instead if you are pushing them into the 3.3 crore student, humongous humanity and voluminous base, you are playing a different game, and I don't want to play that game anymore. I was there and I was successful. From there I graduated a couple of levels up. I'm happy where I am in my life, but I don't want my kids to think that they should start there. They don't need to anymore. I just told you the example of photographers. Their life is about to change because of the AI tools that are coming on the horizon. Today the AI can generate more professional, appealing marketing brochures for products, for companies. They are no longer hiring photographers for their products. 90% of the jobs are going to disappear. 50,000 job losses in Bangalore in just the recent 6 to 9 months. There is a dramatic change in the overall economic mood of the world. And as a parent, am I in tune with my world? If I'm not a learner, how can I expect my kid to be a learner? If I'm not a good critical thinker, how can I expect my kid to be a critical thinker? So I say the parent is a very important part of the equation. Yes, the school is important. Yes, the society is important. Yes, the ecosystems are important. But parent is very important. And a parent, if they are equipped to handle and understand the world around them, it is very, very likely that their children will likewise follow a very methodical path and adapt to different circumstances. There was a talk about resilience. How can you be resilient when you are fluid and perceptive of the changes that are happening in your environment? And to be perceptive requires higher order of intelligence. And if you don't study the patterns of the world, you won't recognize changes. If I tell you the gold went up 70% in the last 1 year or 1.5 years, you'll say, some Nvidia went up 100 times or 50 times. Now, that shows that there is an opportunity for you to research more and understand, is Nvidia's growth organic or inorganic, manipulated or truthful? What is gold telling you? Why is gold going up? Every time in history when gold has gone up, international macroeconomy has come under great stress. 2019 September, there was a repo crisis in the United States of America. 3-4 months later, we had COVID. There are a lot of conspiracy theories that says COVID was engineered. COVID is not natural. COVID was blamed on China, but actually originated in US. Now, as a student, as a parent, as a responsible individual, if you're a critical thinker, you will not judge. You will understand what are the different thinkings associated with a particular topic. And you will say, what is a pattern here? Whenever there is an economic stress, extraordinary economic stress, 2019, September 9th, repo crisis on Wall Street, that manifested as a global synchronized event subsequently, 3 months, 6 months later. Now you might say, why do I need to hear this? You need to hear this because today, since July 29th, in Japan, the Japanese central bank has supported some financial institutions or some set of financial institutions 48 times. In the last 40 days, they have given extraordinary liquidity to some banks and financial institutions 48 times. You might say Japan has always been in ICU since 1989, and you would be right. But just now, since the past 3 days, in Great Britain, in the United Kingdom, the United Kingdom's central bank has started giving liquidity to some financial institutions that are requesting liquidity, extraordinary liquidity. Now you might say it's not a big deal. But if I told you Norinchikin Bank in Japan, HSBC in Hong Kong, UBS in Switzerland, Deutsche Bank in Germany, Bank of America and Wells Fargo in US, their financial shape is not good and they are vulnerable, they are stressed, they are fragile. And if I told you the same pattern happened in 2019, September 9th, and subsequently we had a global macroeconomic event. Now you are beginning to say, yes, is there going to be a macroeconomic event 3 months from now, 4 months from now? Now this is exciting. If I'm in a class teaching students, I will not teach the fundamentals. I will teach them the macro of the world. And from there tie up inflation, deflation, liquidity, and everything. But if a parent, if you want to be a successful parent, you need to understand the world yourself. Know thyself. Aham Brahmasmi. Know thyself. If you don't know where you fit in the world, how can you teach your kids? If you don't understand the world around you, how can you even remotely hope to help kids? That is my only point. We'll explore further.
Yeah. This makes me actually, I got a flashback when you both were talking. I was in 10th, so I'm from Delhi. If some of you don't know, I'm from Delhi. I recently relocated to Hyderabad. But when I was in 10th, firstly, my background is of a convent school, so St. Xavier's in Delhi. My mom, being a convent background, she always wanted her children to be from the convent background only. And she's a teacher herself. Since last 24 plus years, she is into teaching of maths. And I'm bad at maths, I'm sorry. But when I was in 10th and we were having a selection for the streams, so my school usually just had commerce with maths, commerce without maths, and science, of course. There was no humanities. And for me, as a person, as a student, I am really excellent in the theory part. I can learn, not just ratification, but actually learn and memorize things. So my mom always wanted to me either on the commerce or the science side, a typical parent. But again, my father is from the publication side, so they both are in the education in some or the other way. I remember when I was in 10th, during just before some time that stream selection, we attended one of the book fairs in Pragati Maidan in Delhi, where my father, who was at that time working in JPH, there was a book fair and we attended. The MD of JPH actually told my mom that why are you forcing your child, because she knew us, she knew me very well. So she was like, why are you forcing Muskan to take science or commerce? Let her decide what she wants to. So my mom actually argued with her at that time, no, she'll do science, she'll do this, she's good, a typical parent boasting about science and maths. But what suddenly happened, or it was like God's choice, it was written in my destiny that same that year, my batch was the first to get into humanities. Our Xavier introduced humanities for the first time. My mom, who was practicing numerology at that time also, she thought it as a sign, God's sign, and she actually let me pursue humanities, and in 12th I topped my school. So that was my story. So I was like, and we learned entrepreneurship there, and I am here in a school of entrepreneurship. I started my own business. I think that's all destiny. So this is what I got a flashback of my mom, and I'm missing her again. So yeah, coming back to the next question. As you mentioned, sir, industry exposure. Of course, we all talked about the geopolitics and all, but talking about institutions, talking about the ecosystem. For example, the Bower ecosystem we have, and of course, Mahindra has another ecosystem there. For both teachers, faculties, and the parents, How relevant is the industry exposure of a particular institution while choosing a career option, while choosing the UG option for the children? And this question is for both the panelists. Yeah.
It's very important, no doubt about it. So, you have to also look at the university or the school where you're sending your child for higher education. See what are the collaborations they have, what are the tie-ups. Like in the previous panel also they said, getting international exposure is also important. At our university, we have an incubation cell, right? So right from the beginning, when the engineering students are going through the program, we have one full program on entrepreneurship. And we give some amount of money to the students and say, okay, what is the idea that you can come up with? And if this is something that you can present and pitch properly, we will fund the concept and take it further. So we have a number of students who have become entrepreneurs, who have started getting funding from the university and also from venture capitalists outside. And that's a good way to encourage entrepreneurship. Now, like he was talking about entrepreneurship again, you can give skill sets to people. You can give them tool sets, what tool to use, etc. But the most important thing for the entrepreneur is the mindset. Right? How do I leverage what I'm getting from the environment as a stimulus? Where do I see there is a problem that can be solved? And how can I make this useful, make it a win-win for everybody by making money through the problem that I'm solving? Right? And that's the focus. Now, if a particular university or a college cannot give you that ecosystem, those set of students will be at a certain amount of disadvantage. And when we're talking about international collaborations and having these ecosystems, today even the number of languages right? What languages you could speak when you're going abroad could be a great asset. Like Japanese, like Korean, like French, would make a huge difference for you to reach out to the markets over there, right? So again, I'm stressing this, it's an all-round development of the candidates. And like I keep saying, don't let schooling interfere with your education. Majority of the time, most of the learning happens outside the classroom, right? It's the volunteering, it's the clubs, it's the events that are happening in the institution, the hackathons where industry is coming in, where the students are competing with other colleges. That's where actual learning is happening.
Sportsmanship, leadership, ownership, mindset.
Absolutely. So that has to be the focus for all the kids, right? And that's, again, something that needs to be dug up and found out, okay, what kind of collaboration do you have within another international university? Do you have an exchange program? How best can I leverage this? What would be my cost if I were to go for this program? What are the other clubs, institutions available in the college which have, again, collaborations with people outside in the ecosystem? Do they get sponsorships? So on and so forth. These are things that parents should focus on before they choose a university or a college. And of course, colleges also have to take these collaborations forward.
Adding to the point, it's just been 1 month of our UG students being here. And yesterday, after the event of the day one of the curtain raiser, we had a 2-hour-long meeting with the UG students who are just 1 month, exactly 1 month into the system. And they're planning Hyderabad's biggest MUN. And I can bet on the ownership that came in with those 10 students who are working on it. They're ready, okay, we'll get sponsors, this is the target, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, we'll get it. And the students, one of them actually said, I'll do anything that it takes and I'll get this much amount of sponsorship. So I think that is what we are actually looking forward to. And so over to you.
I mean, there is so much to share on this topic, like international exposure, for instance. Just recently, we had an opportunity to send our kids to Japan for an industrial and cultural tour. And I said, without knowing the costs, I said yes. Then, of course, my wife is the voice of sanity. And then she comes back and says, this can be done cheaper. Of course, it can be done cheaper. No problem. But it has to be done. There is a strategic implication to doing certain things. There is a tactical implication as well. Price is a tactical. Whether to send kids to Japan or not is a strategic implication. Strategy trumps tactical all the time. Strategy is doing the right things, and tactical is doing things right. So we need to, as a parent, do the right things. For me, it was obvious to me because I study the global trends. For example, the educational trends in US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. And I knew 2025 is not the year I wanted my kids to be enrolled in US for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons was Indian astrology as well, but that was in the lower tier. But you look at 360-degree view of the world and say, is this the right decision? If you as a parent are just following the trend and then doing what everybody else does, what every other parent does, then you're going to get a result that's comparable to everybody else. But if you understand the world, if you study the world, if you have a sensitivity to the changing landscape, the shifting geopolitical dynamics. For example, Poland is now on war front with Russia as of yesterday and day before yesterday. This is a recent development. Nobody expected that. Poland wanted to be independent. Why is this happening? Is there an engineering of conflict in that region? What are the implications? Why is this happening now? It's happening when the economy is weak. Why are they going on a war footing when the economy is weak? So what are the implications to my children being enrolled in a US university as opposed to Bauer? What is the value of Bauer? There is a saying that a cynic knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. You have something in your backyard that's of extraordinary value, and if you can't assess the value, you will be sending and dispatching your kids overseas thinking that is a solution for all your problems. And that is not true. So as a parent, you have to be a critical thinking yourself. You have to judge whether something is good or bad in the 30,000 feet view, 60,000 feet view. And if you can't make those kind of decisions intelligently, analytically, methodically, your kids also will learn to just follow the beaten track and they will not be leaders. To be leaders means you will be standing alone where a million other people will be following a beaten track. You will be standing alone, you will be saying there is a better way. And for you to have the guts and the chutzpah to be able to do that requires critical thinking, individual thinking. It requires you to be educated about what you're doing. It requires you to study in the class, but study even more outside the class. If you tell me your study habits, I will tell you whether you will be successful or not. If a given cohort of students is not spending time learning from professors in the class, and then whatever new topics are there, if they're not researching them outside of their class, 2 hours, 4 hours, they are not going to amount to anything. If they're not spending time on their passions, my son has learned more about space sciences from YouTube than any other educational institutions. I could not ever make him sit down and explain all those different concepts. He, out of his own volition, he learned. Today we have access to an extraordinary array of resources. But have you inculcated as a parent in them a habit of continual learning? But for the kids to do that, you have to do that yourself. You can't say, I'm old, I'm retired, I'm done, I'm a spent person. You have to be an inspiration to your children. You have to say, what is happening here? What have you done here? How can we do that? One simple example, and I will pass it back to you. 1 year back, I was exposed to a democratized version of venture capital called Inflection Point Ventures. I'm not advertising Inflection Point Ventures, but because it's a great educational tool, I want to share. I believe that the opportunity for my son to be a venture capitalist and sit among a peer of 20 or 40 investors and learn from the other investors how to ask questions to the founders who are pitching. Over the period of 11 months, my son, now I just went on a trek and came back, my son said, I identified one company called Astrogate. They are doing laser point-to-point communications. The Indian military is investing in them. It's got good resilience because there is no risk of interference from any other sources as opposed to traditional radio frequency communication. He was telling me the competitive advantages of this company, and he was saying, this is a company that I believe in. Within 1 month or 1.5 months, we realized that the 3 founders of Inflection Point Ventures were investing in it. And because it was oversubscribed, they raised the valuation from 50 crores to 110 crores. What I'm trying to say is, are you enabling your kids? That is your responsibility as a parent. What do you want to do? You tell me what you want to do and I will support you. If you tell me that you want to be a rocket scientist, but you end up spending 12 hours a day on YouTube, then you're doing the wrong thing. But if you tell me you're going to end up spending 12 hours on YouTube and you do exactly that, I have respect for you. First, because you're honest. Second thing is you're following what you're saying. So be truthful to yourself. These are all things that you have to inculcate in your children, and as a parent, it is our responsibility to sort of set an example and also show them the way. Sometimes you just have to walk them through. This is how you do it. And then after that, they know how to do it. This is how you search for a product on Amazon. And this is how you look at the reviews. This is how you check the return policy. This is how you get a solid sense of whether that product is right for you or not. Once you teach them, then they're off. They'll know how to do this, not just on Amazon, but on other products also. They know how to do a global search for a particular item. What is the reference value? Is the value more or less? Is the price more or less? These kind of things, you're enabling the kid to learn. They will shine, they'll outshine you. There was Dr. Professor Nagendra, who is also a faculty, an esteemed faculty of this institution. He made a great point. He said, education is the only place where people pay a lot of money and don't want to get serviced. They want to bunk classes, right? They want to go hang out at the canteen. They want to go do anything like movies. But stay in the class and learn from professors. Professors have so much to share. Can you pay attention in those 2 hours? Have a list of things that you need to study after the class, after the school. This is a habit that it is the responsibility of the parent. I believe that it's my responsibility to teach my kids. Maybe they won't listen in the first day, first week, first month, first year. But I have to keep at it because they need to learn that only when they research on things that they don't know about, that is when their overall intellectual horizons expand. Only if they do the muscle training, they will get muscle. Only not by studying about muscle training, by doing muscle training. That's the parent.
I have another point to add here. We see that majority of the parents are using the school or the college where they're sending the kids as daycare centers. I can't take care of my kid at home. I don't know what he's going to be doing. He sleeps till 1 o'clock, he drinks, or he goes off to the club. So if he comes to college, at least he's reporting to you. But he doesn't know what his son is doing in the college, right? And that's therefore, and from that aspect, I think what he's been saying is rather very important, that the parent also know what is the child doing in their respective time that they are spending in the institution. Yeah, that's a whole lot of responsibility that you cannot pass on just to an educational institution or to teachers.
I think to that point, because my mom is a teacher, so I know I was on the safe side. At home, she's always a teacher. She used to take tuitions also, so I always had a habit. 3 p.m. when I'm coming back home, 4 p.m. or 4:30 p.m. the tuition classes will start. And we have around 15-20 students from like the apartment where we used to live. Everyone will come, and my mom knew that I was always a self-study child. So I will pick a corner, and those students who were coming for tuitions, my mom used to say that you have to encourage them, that you're doing self-study, they will also do the same. I cannot pamper you because you're my kid. So I'll learn, I'll hear answers from you because you have an exam next day, all those parental things that used to happen. Because it was my mom who's also a teacher, I think that is something I've always seen at my home also. So parents play a huge role here. But of course, there's one more point that I want to touch base on. As parents, what do you think? Because of course, you have taken a bold step to encourage your twins to come to a school of entrepreneurship and become entrepreneurs, not in like this year, but in the coming time. But of course, they are developing the fundamentals at least. So as a parent, there are two approaches. Either you do what your kid wants to pursue, or you play it safe and get to a traditional institution. So what did you do? Of course, we know what did you do, but what was the approach maybe in the initial conversations with your kids or for any future aspirant in both the ways, the parents also and the kid?
I personally think that getting my kids admitted to Bauer is one of the achievements in my life.
Thank you so much.
A lot of people think, what's the big deal, man? Maybe you became a director of an institution or a vice president or a CEO, then it's an achievement. No, this is an achievement because when we started out, my wife was against it, my kids were against it. They wanted to follow the beaten track. They had their interests. My son has an interest in space. Yes, but I didn't believe in a mechanical engineering degree. I believe, like you talked about, in a mindset. Elon Musk does not have a space degree, does not have a rocket science degree, but he's one of the, he's started so many companies, one of them being SpaceX, which is very inspirational to my son. And I asked him, what did you Think about Elon. And why do you think he became successful? And he said, because he understood the economics of rocket launching. There you go. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. You need to understand what works and what doesn't work. The macroeconomics of a particular institution, microeconomics of a particular institution, very common sense approaches to whether something will work. Elon Musk is reusability is a big part, and that is why he has 90+% of all payloads being lifted into orbit. 90%. Only because of one fundamental change he made to his design, reusability. He understood the economics of it. I can teach you the economics of that in 10 minutes. I can change your life. Your mindset, like you mentioned, your mindset is what needs to change. You need to have the confidence to say, over the course of my lifetime, I'll have ideas. And I'm going to convert one of those ideas into $1 billion company. What you need is a mindset that is already part of you. There is a saying in India that some families are business families and therefore it's in their blood. What they're talking about is a mindset. I want my kids to have that mindset. Mindset change. My wife said, you're not a startup founder yourself. You're not a big deal. You're nobody. Why do you expect your kids to start a company? I said, I'm not expecting my kids to start a company. I want to equip my kids with the intellectual capacity to start a company, with the know-how, with the confidence, with the mindset. Only mindset. It's like teaching a kid computer science, basic computer science, how to use a computer. It's like teaching a kid common sense approach to numerical problems, right? Big law of big numbers. Students are not taught law of big numbers in schools today. And therefore, they don't understand market crashes, economic market crashes. They don't understand. Each month, 25,000 crores are being funneled via systematic investment plans, SIPs, into the stock market. Where is this money ending up? In what funds? In what equities? And why is it ending up there irrespective of the valuation? If I gave somebody this phone and said, would you please buy this for 10 lakhs, sir? You will say, come on, man, don't take me for a ride, because I know this is not worth more than 20 or 30 or 40,000. The MRP itself is 1 lakh. How can you ask me 10 lakhs? You're smart. You're using your common sense. But 25,000 crores each month is being pumped into the Indian stock market, irrespective of valuations. Now, how many students of macroeconomy or microeconomy or economics will ask, wait a minute, what's going on here? What's going on here? Kids should be taught to ask those questions. You should ask the question. You should teach them how to ask these questions. Japan imploded in 1989. Since 1989, it has not recovered. Now it is on the ICU. It's in critical care. Either its currency might fail or its bond market might fail. One of those two things, it's an inevitability. What are the implications? First of all, is it true that the currency might fail? Is it true that the bond market might fail? What are the probabilities? What are the possibilities? Boolean decision making. And if so, what does it mean to the world? What does it mean to the Japanese yen carry trade? Why am I discussing Japanese yen carry trade? Because it has profound implications to the financial underpinnings of the world. Why are we not discussing what is happening in the world with the kids? Why are we not tying entrepreneurship to what is happening in the world? So that is the question I ask myself as a parent. What do I want my kids to do? I want them to make good decisions. They are giving vaccines for COVID in 2021 or late 2020 even. Is it good to take the vaccine? Yes or no? The answer was no. But everybody and their uncle were taking vaccines. Covaxin, Covishield. In the US, they were taking mRNA vaccines. Every affluent country in the world was taking vaccines. And today we know in 2025, with the release of 16 million medical records in Japan, that COVID mRNA vaccines have hurt a lot of people. There is absolutely no doubt. Particularly the young generation, which did not even need the vaccines, they took it. The question is, if you go back, how can you make better decisions? How can you say, I don't want the vaccines? I told my wife, we had fights on the vaccine. I said, there's no way you're taking the vaccine that is untested. There is an Indonesian vascular surgeon who said that the mRNA particles are going to every corners of your human body. They are going to jam, they are going to block. Now today we know them as clogs, C-L-O-G. Have we researched enough? Do we understand that there are a lot of ticking time bombs in US? Sportsmen, right? TV anchors, movie artists that are dropping dead. Just recently, just barely 5 days back, there is a European member of parliament or somebody on the dais. After her speech, she fell down and died. We don't know what is going on. So I want to sensitize my kids to study the world, to know what is happening. What are the implications to my profession, my family, my state, my country, my world? The critical thinking is what is important, and I want to encourage my kids to use the classroom as a cockpit to further their intellectual frontiers, and for them to pick up the habits. Without habits, it's all just a proposal, nothing happens. It is the habit of self-learning, like you mentioned, right? Self-learning, continuous self-learning. And today we have the resources, we have extraordinary resources. No question about resources, we have information overload. And we have the extraordinary opportunity of having access to people who know, people who have experience, people who are learned. So as a parent, these are the topics that I think about and grapple every day. What do I do to change the mindset of my children? That's all.
So, adding up to your question, your point, I have a question to you, ma'am. Because sir mentioned, I'll just take COVID vaccine as one of the examples of societal pressure, because I know how the society, how everyone used to pressurize, have you taken the vaccine? Because at that time, I was at the peak of my own business into events, and I know the people, the clients used to ask, has your staff taken the vaccine or not? So that was the kind of societal pressure, though I will divert it a bit to, again, the question to you, ma'am, but societal pressure is something that is actually there since the early ages, I think so. Like, till the time I have seen it, it is existing. So for you, because you are in that position, with your loads of experience, so coming to the parents, coming to the, let's say, the likewise faculties around you or the management and even the students once they are admitted, have you noticed, is there a societal pressure that they are getting admitted into certain industries, like let's say entrepreneurship only or some other streams just because of societal pressure?
Yes.
If yes, then I know that was a yes. That's why I prepared the
Absolutely.
thing ready. But how have you dealt with it? Because students bunking classes, I know sometimes it is just because of they want to experience, but sometimes it is more because they're not interested in that stream and they're just coming for the sake of making their parents or the society happy. So how have you dealt with these situations in your experience?
All right. So number one, yes, there is a tremendous amount of societal pressure. Right now also, there's so many streams that we have in the college for engineering alone. But everybody wants a child to get into only computer science or AI, because they say the future is just there. I mean, that's what they've heard, that's what their friends have advised, so they're just take CS. So the highest number of people applying to our college also belongs to CS or AI, all right?
So it's like, Sharma ji ka beta ye kar raha hai, so we have to...
Yes, absolutely. Now, luckily for us, because in our university we have different streams. We have the School of Law, we have the School of Management, we have the School of Hospitality Management, we have the School of Design, a School of Media. So if we come across a difficult case like this, that somebody is not interested, we are still in a position to give them the chance of moving into another school. But if the college doesn't have that kind of an infrastructure or the number of schools, then it becomes very, very difficult, right? And now, like I was saying right at the beginning, a child is forced into CS by the parents or AI, and he has no aptitude for coding. For the rest of the life, he's going to be miserable, right? And this is what parents are not getting. And therefore, the incidences of, going into depression or becoming suicidal are increasing in the university. And that is a very difficult, and that's why substance abuse, right? Also drinking, vaping, those kind of things are coming up because they don't know how to cope with this kind of circumstances, right? And therefore, very, very essential for the parents to not push their child into a particular stream just because they think it is the most lucrative field to make money right now.
I think I've been just grateful enough, and I hope everyone has been, because the parents did not force, and kudos to you also. So with this, of course, one piece of advice that you want to give to the parents from both of your perspectives, that when they're choosing the UG institutions for their children, what should be one topmost thing they should remember and then make the decision, apart from fees?
Like I said, get their career aptitude test done first. See what is the stream that they are fit for. Let them realize their potential by following something that they will be really able to do. And once they know that they have the confidence to do something, they will find a way. They will find a way. And there are so many avenues. Like in our generation, we just have had being an engineer or a doctor, right? In the 1990s, and the management field came in. And now there is so much. There is animation, there is gamification, there are so many other avenues opening. And in my 50 years of experience, I heard doomsday spell everywhere. They said, computers aa gaya, abhi naukri nahi milegi, you will not get jobs. Then they said, internet has come, you will not get jobs. Then now they're saying, AI has come, you will not get jobs. The little bit of research that I have done and what Gallup, etc. have done, the number of jobs are just increasing, not coming down. It's about reskilling and upskilling, not going for the traditional streams and then upping your game to take on what's available in the market, right? That's the answer.
So for you?
I'm a believer that everything will work out if your conviction, if your passion, if your commitment is there. So no matter what the student uses as a starting point in his life, he will get to the place where he's meant to be as long as he's committed, convinced, and he's willing to put in the effort. What I mean to say is, ma'am has suggested as a career counseling, and that's extraordinarily valuable. Once you know what your passions are, what your strengths are, what is the opportunity out there, once you do that mapping, you will have a great starting point. So if you can give the kids a great starting point, that will help them along their psychological well-being, right? They'll have good self-esteem because they are productive, they are generating cash flow for themselves and for their family. Those kind of starting points are important. But what we also need to understand is this is a shifting landscape. AI is here. AI is going to displace a lot of jobs. 50,000 lost jobs in Bangalore. It's going to hurt a lot of professions. But it's also going to benefit and create new opportunities for those who are upward mobile, reskilling, upskilling, who are willing to learn. So again, it demonstrates that if you're resilient, you will understand changes and you will adapt. If you don't adapt, you'll perish. Perish means you'll be left on the side of the mountain rather than going for the peak. So are you teaching your kids essentially to excel at what they are doing anyway right now? If they don't have the habit of excelling just because I have no interest, then find what you are interested in and excel at that. Excellence is a habit, is a mindset. Again, it's going back to the mindset. Mindset is very important. We have discussions in my family all the time. What are they teaching? What are you learning? No, it is a mindset. It is the pasture where my children are grazing, intellectually speaking, right? I want to determine the best pasture available. And therein, there is a certain amount of, you might say, force. There is no force. They can learn the same thing in New York, but who is going to pay for it? Is it the right time to pay for that? New York University. We went to Abu Dhabi. Campus is glorious. Ecosystem is wonderful. Are you going to pay that $250,000 every year? What are you getting out of it? If you can get the same thing in Hyderabad, why would you not choose it? Why would you undervalue it? Just because it is in your backyard? That means that you're not able to make good decisions just because something is available and available at a reasonable value. So the point is, are you making good decision involves every decision that you're making on a daily basis. So it's the mindset of excellence, the mindset of commitment. You promise somebody you will be there at some time. Are you being there? Are you there? If you're not there, have you informed them? Are you responsible? Are you accountable for what you have committed? These are all attributes that are important for kids. Ethics, morality. Are you being responsible to society as well as you can? These all go back to your success. If you inculcate these kind of attributes in a kid, no matter what the starting point, as the opportunities come, they will excel, they will shine, they will grow like a Jackie Chan or a monkey going in the jungle. They will climb trees that you would not expect. But they need the core skills, the core competencies, the core discipline to be able to succeed in life. And that is where you learn from teachers, from peers, from families, from parents. And parents have a huge role. Parents cannot abdicate. Parents cannot use an educational institution as a daycare. Even 15, 18, 21-year-olds are being sent to institutions hoping that the institutions will shape them, will create some fantastic product out of my kids. No, it's not happening. It's not going to happen. Parental involvement is the number one indicator of success in children in the long run. Because kids are kids forever, parents are parents forever. And at some level, they need to be plugged into that ecosystem. They need to take accountability. They need to be responsible for that relationship. And it's an ongoing thing. There was one gentlewoman from Indus who said her father enrolled her in Flame University. That shows that the father was involved, was thinking for her. That already shows that she has the right ammunition, right context in which to succeed. Let's say somebody does not have anything. Resilience comes into play. You will find mentors in your community. You just have to learn to respect people who are older than you, irrespective of their background. Their intention, their capability to guide you is important. Like I look at Pawan, I look at all the Bauer staff. Each of them, if you associate with them, if I spend an afternoon with you, I will learn so much about where you came from, who your father was, who your mother was, what kind of decision making influenced your life. Are we interested in what is happening around? Those are the things that I care about as a parent. And it won't happen overnight, it won't happen in one day, but it is a process. And they are in the right space. And that space is very important for me as a parent. So a parent must choose a space in which the children graze, if they are sheep. You cannot define their DNA, you cannot design their DNA. Whatever it is more or less set by virtue of wherever they were born, however they are born. But what intellectual input can they graze? How can they process? How can they assimilate? How can they make better decisions? Those are the things that you can shape both as a parent, as a uncle, or as a peer, or as an educator. Like if you are involved in the education stream, I think these things are extremely important. And I look at Pawan, I'm inspired. He's 30 years old and he's a leader, and that's inspirational. I look at a high school failed gentleman who's enormously successful in the field outside of Hyderabad, and he's accumulating and he's making decisions that are in line with the market. He did not do an MBA from Chicago School of Business or from any of the institutions, but he's observing his market, he's adapting, he's fluid, and he's successful. He did not even pass high school because he has a sensitivity to understand his environment. For whatever reason, he was not academically successful, but he's intellectually very successful and bright. He's understanding the inputs, the stimuli that's coming in, and he's processing them. So, classroom, kids should listen, and then they should go and do self-study. We have talked about self-study. We have talked about competencies. We have talked about what you are good for, ikigai, right? Like where you fit. But irrespective of ikigai, if you are given a starting point, you should seize it, you should capitalize it, and you should grow from there. You should capitalize on every opportunity, every fluid situation that comes across your way. Those are the skills that are going to be important for kids, and those can be inculcated by parents with their own life.
As we say, learning begins at home. So that's how they observe the parents, they observe the faculties teaching them, and I think that's how the biggest experience comes into life. So with this, I'll open the questions for